Hi there everyone, and welcome to our third webinar hosted by ITR Technology. My name is Richard. I am a ManageEngine specialist, especially with ServiceDesk Plus, Desktop Central. Those are my core points, or actually core products that I do. On our last webinar, we did a quick installation of ServiceDesk Plus and showed how to change the database. Today we will focus on help desk customization, incident template creation, as well as the service catalog feature. So as you guys can see, the first thing that you will do on the help desk itself will be the help desk customizing. So within the help desk customizing, this will be defining how your request will look like. So the first step that you will do is you will add your relevant categories. Within your categories, you will have your subcategories as well and items. So a quick example of how it will look. We will create a new category and make a category called hardware testing. And this can be defined within your company itself of what your users usually ask for. So in this case, I will just name it hardware testing. After this, you can actually assign the specific category to a relevant technician, or you can choose a change the manager who can actually change the specific category and so on. So if we save this category, we have the option to go and save it and add a subcategory. Save it and add a subcategory. Within this, we will create now a subcategory, which will be we will call it RAM issues. So basically now this will drill down into specifically what the type of category is. So it will define the category for you. Within that, you can add additional items. So the items will be a third step if the first information did not, or if the category and the subcategory did not provide proper information for the users or for the technicians signing the requests themselves. The item will then define that for you. We can always go and add multiple items to make it a bit more defining for the users. As well as within the subcategories where you can define what you can add more subcategories within it. So that basically covers the category part of the product. Please note that if you guys have any questions, there will be a certain time period that I'll be answering all the questions at the end of the session. Okay, so we'll move over to the status. Please note that, just jumping back to the category, the product already comes with predefined categories already for you to give you a bit of an idea of how it will look like. So if you go, for instance, if we go into services, it will look as follows. So there will be VPN, wireless access, telephone, network connectivity, or voice over IP. So there will be some created already for you just to give you an idea of how to define it. But it's also up to you to create your own categories. We will move over to the status. So the status gives the user, the administrator, the right to actually define on what needs to happen once a request has been created. So automatically when a request is created, it will be on open. After it has been on open, if you're waiting for feedback from a client, you can put it on hold, and it will stop the timer of the SLAs so that it doesn't breach SLA if you're still waiting for feedback. Let's say, for instance, you purchased equipment or so, it gives you the opportunity to place it on hold to stop the timer because SLA is going to be violated if you're waiting too long. You also get the opportunity for completed. So that's when you close the request. So once you close the request, it's closed. The only way to open it up again is a US technician open it up from your side, or if a specific user actually just responds to the last mail that was sent to them, and it will reopen the request. The resolve status will give the users the opportunity then to close the request themselves. So I'm just going to add a new status quickly. Oh, sorry. There we go. So here I can define now what type it is. Is it in progress? Is it completed? And we can define the color for it so that this color coded so there is no confusions with it. So for this specific status, I'm going to put it in progress and I'm going to stop the timer. I will save that. And within the request, once we get to the request part, I will show you guys exactly how that looks like and how it will be defined. Then we get the level. So usually most companies use the level as different tiers. So that will be to define who's going to work on certain requests. This will also be a big part once you get to the business rules, which will be in our automation webinar. So just to keep, I'm going to keep all the 4 tiers that are there at the moment. But for a call center, as an example, the tiers will work as first line support, second line support, third line support, fourth line support. Where your first line support would be emails, second line would be ASL, third would be networking, and fourth will be hosting, for instance. So that will define what type of issue the specific request will be. We will jump over to the following, which is mode. So how the mode will work is it will define how a request has been logged. So as you guys can see, there's an opportunity for the chat down here. So on the help desk, you give the users the privilege as well to actually use a live chat functionality to log a request. Okay, so how that specifically works is they will log in with their username and password, Active Directory username and password, and at the bottom they'll have an option for live chat. Once they click on that, they start typing a message, and the technicians will have the opportunity to select that or take the call from their side, and after the chat, create a request from it. Then you get the email. As how this works is you will configure your mail server settings, and after you've configured your mail server settings, if a mail gets sent through to the email address on the help desk, it will then basically automatically populate the field as it's an email that was received, and it will create it for you. Then you get phone call. So this is selected by a user themselves. So if you select phone call, it will be usually if an end user actually gave you a call to the technician help desk and you had to create the request manually. And then you get web form, where it will give the user the opportunity, once they log into the self-service portal, they can then log a specific request and it will automatically populate the field as web form. Moving over to the impact, urgency, and priority. So how this works specifically in an ITIL environment, you've got a priority matrix. We'll jump over to the priority matrix just to show you guys exactly how that works. Most of you will understand and have used it within your environment before. So, for instance, if my urgency is low and my impact of the specific request is high, we can define a priority that will meet halfway, or we can make the priority high then. So automatically, once those fields have been populated, it will automatically associate the priority as high. So that is basically where that will come in. So the more impacts and urgencies and priorities you add, the more listed priority matrix, your priority matrix will grow based on that. So also another thing about the priorities that you just need to keep in mind, the priorities will be, as well as the impact and urgency, you can go and define your SLAs based on the specific priority, urgency, or impact. That will be your definition for it. So based on what your priority will be, is going to be based on what your SLA is going to pick up. Then you get your request type. So within the request type, you get the opportunity, you can add additional ones. So if it's a request for information, if it's a service request, is it an incident request, exactly what type of information the request, what type the request is, will be defined over here. Your workload type will be additionally within your specific request. Once you add a specific workload type, you can specify the name of the workload type for a given text field, and that will give the opportunity to fill that in once you add a specific workload to a request. We then have request closure codes. This is now once a request moves from an open status to a closed status, you can define why the request has been closed. Was there no response from clients? Has it been cancelled? Is it postponed for another time? Is it successful? And this is where you will add the additional information. You then get your request closing rules. So from here on, you can make it mandatory fields. Before you can close a request, you can make it mandatory to be filled in. Currently, I don't have anything selected, so I will select something just to make sure that we have the correct information filled in. So we will test that also with the request. Once moving it from an open status to a closed status, we will test out the mandatory fields for it. Next one, we get the incident template. I will open up this in the next tab. As we will be working with the additional fields at the same time for the incident templates. So as you can see, the product comes automatically with about 19 different templates. All of them have not been predefined or customized according to your needs. So it's always important to first go into them and customize it the way you require it to be. So from my side, I'm just going to remove these because I just want one standard default template. Once I have removed the templates, I will go into my default request template. And as you can see, this is exactly how it would look like. So from here on, you get the opportunity to remove certain fields and also add additional fields to what you want it to be. So as you can see, if you add additional fields, you get an opportunity to add a single line, a pick list, a multi-select, multi-line, numeric, date and time, and a decimal. For this, I'm just going to go and make a pick list. I'm going to make it car color, car brand. Let's keep it on that. So that will be my label name. We will add the values. Let's put in Volvo, Volkswagen. Just an example of two of them, and we will now save it. So now within my request template or my incident template, this field will be defined within that template. Again, if you go and create a new template on your own or separate from this template, you will have the opportunity to add the specific field as well. So now if I just jump back to the incident additional fields, if I refresh this page, you will see that there is one field that has been added to the specific request. Just a quick so another thing that you can do is we can now go and remove some fields. So for instance, I don't want the level because I'm not going to use it at the moment. We can move it around. I don't want the group at the moment. I don't want the service category at the moment. I just want to move my fields around so it looks a bit more neat. So this is now how my specific template would look like. So next on the list is changing if a requester can set the specific field, or if they can, if they can change it, or if they can view it. So very simple. There's a small button that next to the cross where you remove it, where you can edit the field properties. So from there, you have the opportunity to tick the box and say that it's a mandatory field, or if the requester can set it, or if they can view it. So for instance, on priorities, urgencies, and impacts, you don't want requesters to set that. You want them to see it at least from their side. So we have removed the priority. Technician, they won't be able to select. And we make the description as a mandatory. Automatically, the template will make the subject a mandatory field and will always be needed to fill that in. So we will save this and move on to the next part. Now we get the requester view. As you can see, we removed some of the fields for them that they can't select. And the card brand is at the bottom. So we just need to move it to the top of this so that we make sure that they can select that. We will save this. And we will move over to the workflow. So from the workflow itself, you can go and allow that after creating a request, you can send approving to them, to relevant users to approve the specific information that's provided on the request. You can also go and trigger tasks to automatically, once a request is created, will automatically trigger a task and add it to a specific request. So we'll jump over to the field and form rules. And now from here, we can define what happens. So on form load, you can make it that a field doesn't appear once the form or the request has been created. And then from there, we can go and on field change, make it that once a specific field has been changed, it will populate that specific field for the user to fill in. So our template has been saved, and now we can move on to the next step, which is the resolution template. So a resolution template is pretty simple and standard. It's just to, once a request has been closed, you can actually go and define if a resolution can be posted through to the solutions tab, and if it's not allowed to. We get the reply templates. So this will then define, you will predefine this. So once you get information from clients and you don't have enough information, you can go and specifically create a reply template based on what your needs are, and you can select relevant links for it. So automatically you can put in the person's first name, or you can put in what their last name is. You can put in the request link if you need to, and this will now populate automatically once you select the reply template. Perfect. So we'll move over to the task types. So within the task template, you have the opportunity to define the task and say what task type it is. So just a quick example. Over here is going to be what type of task you're busy handling. Is it install or uninstallation? Is it troubleshooting? Are you doing maintenance at the moment? Is it for testing purposes? So that will be defined within your task itself. So just a quick example. This is how a task template looks like. We'll fill in the details. So we'll make a new server installation. Say the task type is install, what the effort is, what the additional cost will be to it, and if there are any comments that you want to add as well. Okay, so we'll save the specific task. When we get to the request, we will automatically associate the task to it. After that, you get your task closure rules. Works exactly as your request closure rules. You will define which fields are mandatory before you can close a specific task. We will jump over to the request custom view, custom menu. This will be defined as a specific custom HTML file that you can upload, or if there's a script that you want to execute for a specific template that you want, or if you want to associate it to a specific template. So that is how that will work. You also get your custom triggers. Custom triggers will also, again, allow you to run a specific script to perform relevant actions within your environment. Last but not least, on the customization side will be the chat settings. So here you can see that you can go and enable the chat or disable it based on what you want to, what the response time is for that specifically. You can also go and define a specific group which is excluded for the chat. So if your higher technicians are in a specific group, you can make that they don't have or don't receive the chat pop-up on the bottom. We can also exclude relevant technicians for it. So if there's a manager in a group that does not do the live chat, you can go and disable them. You can give them a specific welcome message, or if it has been missed, you can provide them with a message to say, unfortunately, we could not answer the specific chat in time. We will work on it, or we will work on your issue. Please send them out to the following. So that would be one way to take it. And then if you want to transfer it to another technician, you have the opportunity to give them a message as well. So as you can see on the side here, there's the ongoing chats, if there's any unpicked chats, missed chats, or the history of all the chats that happened within your environment. That is basically on the help desk customization side. So I'll quickly jump over to the request, just to show you guys quickly how it looks like once you create a request on your template. It's pretty simple. Once you go to the request page, you will see that you can predefine a specific filter based on what you require to see on your help desk. So I'm going to quickly define a filter. See here. Added an additional status, awaiting shipment from Supermarket. So we can go now create a specific filter for us from here. So we will select as the status where status contains awaiting shipment from Takealot. We add it to the filter. So I'm going to make this so you can also define it if it's a private view for yourself only, or if you want to share it to relevant technicians to see all the requests with that specific status. You can always go and define it as if you want to make it a different category. Contains is list of hardware or hardware testing. You can also go and select multiple ones by holding in the control button. For this one, I'm just going to use the hardware testing. We will add it to the filter. Now we will save the specific view. So what's great about it is now when it comes to the reporting side, you can actually see were created with that specific information provided to it. So we'll scroll right to the bottom, and we will select our view that we just created. Currently, there's no specific request created with it. So I'm just going to go over to my open and unassigned. I will click on the new button, and I will create a new request based on the information provided. So we will select hardware testing. Select priority is high. Request type will be an incident. We'll keep it on open for time being, and we'll select a specific technician to work on that specific request. We will define the subject as testing filter and put it in the description as well, just to cover the mandatory field that we need to fill in. We will now add the request. Name, get guest. So after we added the request, we go back to our predefined filter. So we will see all the information that has been populated that we did customize, that we customized for the template specifically, will be seen at the bottom here. We'll always go on the edit button at the top, and we'll bring it up for you as well. So this is also the other edit, just to see how it looks like. So when I go back to my predefined specific filter, you'll see that the filter will work because, no, it will not work, sorry, my apologies. It will not work due to the fact that we haven't defined what was in there. So if we go and select the status from open to awaiting shipment from Takealot, we can then see that it will be now populated to the awaiting filter. Okay. Quick information on the request itself. You have the opportunity to close the request within the specific ticket. If you click on the close, you'll see that this is where you're going to fill in your request closure code. After you selected your request closure code, you can then close the specific request. If the mandatory fields have not been filled in, it will then give you an error and say that the mandatory fields has not been filled in. I'm just quickly going to edit this request. Sorry, on the closure code. I'm just going to make it that the technician is not assigned. There's no technician. And I'm going to try and close the specific request. That's very strange. We were supposed to have an error there. So at the top here, it will display an error and say that your request closure code rules, you need to apply the technician before you can close the specific request. So that is where it will display at the top, and then you will then from your side go and assign a specific request, technician to it. So I'm just going to reopen this request. Very important thing to always know that if you have a specific request, if you have a status that gets defined by stopping the timer, you can always go and schedule the time for the status to change back to open. So if you're waiting 2 or 3 days, that client said that they'll get back to you, you can go and define the scheduled status change to say when it needs to reopen the specific request for you. In this case, I'm just going to cancel it, and we will just change the status to on hold. We will jump into the other parts of the specific request as creating a new problem, associating a change, and associating a project with the next webinar where we will be covering that specifically for you. As you can see at the top here, there's more actions that you can do specifically with a request. You can start a specific timer where it will go as the workload timer. You can merge a request with another request. You can link one request with another request. The difference comes in between those is if you merge a request, it makes it one consolidated request. If you link a request, it still splits up the different requests, and you can work on both of the requests on separate instances. We can go and duplicate this specific request. You can define how many different copies you want to make of that specific request. So if I go to the open or unassigned requests, you'll see that we have now 3 duplicates of the same request. You can preview the request, where you can actually print it. You can delete the request, convert the incident to a service, where you can define the specific service category and also what the template is. So that will be within the service catalog itself. And then you can convert it for approvals, as well as tasks and so on that are associated to that specific service request. And you can go and create a service request based on the information that you have within this request, of course, incident request. We will jump over to the Tasks tab. So on the Tasks tab, we can add tasks from templates. We'll select the one that we defined. New server installation, add as a task. And now we have the opportunity to close the specific task and go within it and create what's needed, do what's needed with that task. Go into it. I'm going to change the status to closed. Perfect. So after the task has been done, you can have relevant comments and all of that within the task. And then you can go and put in work log details. So there's three different ways to do it. You can start the timer over there. You can do the work log and timer over there, where you can start it. And once you stop it, you can add it to the work log. Once the information has been provided through to the work log, you can do it over here as well. You can say who the owner is of the specific work log, when you guys started, when it ended, specific hours that it took you to work on that specific issue, what the total cost was, and a full description of what you guys did during that specific session. You have the opportunity to also have solutions. So what's nice about the solutions will be covered within the knowledge base part, is that once a resolution has been created, so if you found a better way to complete an issue or make sure that the problem has been resolved, you can go and add it as a solution, and you can populate it through for approval from your administration side. You can always go and attach relevant documents as well if you have documents, and your managers or administrators will approve the specific solution. This will then be populated to self-service your end users or to technicians. You can define if it needs to go to both or just within the technician environment. Within your solutions, you can have relevant keywords to define once a specific request comes in with a certain subject, the solution will automatically populate a solution for the user to try and see if it can actually solve their issue for them. We will jump to the History tab. The History tab will define who did what exactly on the specific request. And you will have your request history, which will be your time elapsed analysis, which will define when the request changed to 11 statuses, if it has been assigned to another group, if it's been assigned to other technicians. Also, you can see how much time has elapsed, and for the SLA, if there is any SLA populated to it. Close this request now. We will jump over to the service catalog. As you guys saw, the service catalog will almost work exactly like the request. It's just defining your templates. So you'll start off with the service categories. So the service categories will be your header for the specific service catalog. After creating the service categories, you will have the opportunity to create a service catalog. The picture will be defined. Within it, you will have different templates of what needs to be done. So if it's for user management, request change of plate, new process of a new employee that's actually starting or leaving the company. So as you can see, it has its own defined template. You can go relevant. You can add relevant resources. Or you can add questions for them, or you can go and create a new question based on what you need it to be. So I will add a question that says, choose an operating system. Go in for new user. And we will save it. So now this will give you the opportunity to predefine this, or give the HR or IT technicians the opportunity to select a specific operating system that's going to be installed on that machine. Once we say that, we will configure the specific workflow. So within the workflow, you will have different stages of approving. So as you can see over here, we can define the stages of approving based on CEO, CFO, CIO, COO, department in charge, department heads, if there's any specific managers, site managers, who the specific user reports to, and so on. So you can actually go and add specific stages. You can also go and add additional tasks to that specific request as well. The template actions we will discuss once we have the integration session with the relevant products that integrate to the help desk. So I'll show everyone how this specifically works then. After this has been done, you can go and configure the requester view of what they can see, exactly the same as on a normal incident request. Just to quickly show you guys how it looks like for a user themselves when they log a request, I will quickly sign out that account, and I will quickly log in with a guest account. There we go. So this is basically the self-service portal for a normal requester. They will have the opportunity to submit a request, and they will define it based on their specific service categories. So if they want to define a normal request, they need to specify what type of request it will be. So you can say if it's a service incident template or a service request. If we go to the incident templates, just see if you can see it. We'll just say new issue, and this is where they can define what their issue is. This will be the default template for them. I will quickly go back to the home page and just quickly show how it looks like once the user creates a service catalog request. So once they click on it, this is how it would look like. They can define the specific field, and then they can add the request. Obviously, most of the information will be populated, but employee name will be Sam will be leaving the office. We need to choose a new operating system for the new machine, that's for the new user. We will add the request. Once it's been added, it will be assigned through the moment no technician, because we don't have the automation on. But the request will come through to the help desk. We will be able to see it over here. Who the requester was, who's it assigned to, we want to assign it to ourselves, and what the status is when it's created, and all of the relevant information. That basically covers our part of the webinar for today. If you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask some questions right now. just saying again, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to post them in the chat or in the question tab. We'll answer them to the best of my knowledge. I will be ending the webinar now. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending and joining. I do appreciate it. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to send us a mail at support@itrtech.co.za, and we will answer all your questions to the best of our knowledge. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.